Hi, I'm Christian Triola, author of The Missing Method for Guitar books. And in this Guitar Basics video, I'm going to show you 6 easy chords that every new guitar player should learn. So let's take a look. To start off, playing chords on guitar just means that you're playing the harmony. You're playing several notes at the same time. Now, if you were in a choir or a band or something like that, you'd have different instruments or different singers coming together, each singing a different note that will then blend together. And so on guitar, you can do the similar types of things by knowing where to put your fingers and then strumming the right number of strings. And really, the chords that we're talking about, are made up of just 3 notes. And those 3 notes, when played together, will give you a lot of sound, and a lot of songs just use these types of chords. So I'm going to show you these chords that are easy to learn, simple, and sound great on the guitar. In fact, we're going to go over them in 2 different ways. One is an easy way to play them just to get started. And then if you find that too easy, I'm going to show you the way that a lot of players play these chords. So the next thing I want to talk about is that there are basically 3 different chord sounds. Now, there are a lot of others that are based off of these, but to get started, you want to think of major sounding chords, minor sounding chords, and then dominant 7th sounding chords. Now, dominant 7th chords actually have 4 notes in them instead of the 3 I was talking about before, and have more of a bite to them. So there's a little bit more unstable sounding. But at their base, they're basically major chords with a little extra spice, so to speak. And we'll get into those in just a minute. So to start off, we're going to play the easiest chord you can play on guitar. In fact, you don't even need your fretting hand for it. All you need to do is take your pick, start at the 3rd string, that's 3rd string from here, 1, 2, 3, and strum the first 3 strings, the high strings. When you strum those 3 chords, that chord is called E minor. So it's a minor sounding chord. And that's the most basic chord that you can play on guitar, is E minor. Now, you might notice it's not a very full sounding chord. We have 3 strings we're not even using. So if you want to, you can add a finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and on the 5th string, 2nd fret at the same time. And then you can strum all 6 strings with those fingers down. And that is a more full version of E minor. And it sounds great. I mean, it's like the guitar was built for this chord. All right, so that's our first chord, E minor. And don't forget that all these chords, plus a way to practice them, can be found on the PDF that comes with this video. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next chord. The next chord we have is G major. And so to play G major, you're just going to take your 3rd finger, your ring finger, and place it right next to the fret on string number 1, fret number 3. And then you strum 3 strings, just like you did with E minor. And that is the basic G chord. So you can go back and forth between G and E minor. Maybe you'll strum 4 strums at a time. So you have G to start, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you could switch to E minor by just taking your finger off. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you could write a song just with those 2 chords if you wanted to. But we're not going to stop there. We've got more chords to look at. So let's go on to our next chord, which is C major. Now, C major is a little bit trickier. It's not real hard. It's just 1 finger to start. And we have the 1st finger, the index finger, on string number 2 at fret number 1. Now, by itself, it's not hard to do, but what a lot of beginners tend to do is lean their 1st finger so it's touching the 1st string. So when they go to strum it, they'll get a sound out of string 3, 2, but nothing out of 1. So if that happens to you, just take your finger, put it high on the tip, and you'll get all three strings to sound at the same time. All right, so we have E minor, we have G major, we have C major. So now we'll move on to our next chord. The next chord is called A minor. So it's back to a minor sounding chord. So to start off with A minor, you want to get your index finger on the first fret of the second string, just like you did with a C chord. But now we're going to add another finger to it. So it's our first two-finger chord. Take the middle finger, put it on string number 3 at fret number 2. So we have a finger on string 3, fret 2, a finger on string 2, fret 1, and our first string is cleared. So there's nothing touching it. It's nice and open. So you strum those three together. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. You can hear it's a lower sounding chord than the last two, and that's the sound of minor. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next chord. Now I'm keeping the A minor down, and the reason for that is the next chord is called D7, and these two fingers will remain in the same place. So you have third string second fret, second string first fret, and then you're going to take the ring finger and put it on the second fret of the first string. And then we're going to strum 4 strings instead of 3. The reason we're strumming 4 strings is that fourth string by itself is the note D, so it blends perfectly into a D7 chord. And you can hear the D7 has an extra note in there. That C note kind of clashes a little bit, kind of giving it a little bit more tension. So the dominant 7th chords, that's their function, is to add a little tension to the music. All right, and that leaves us with one final chord, and this one is called G7. So it's like the G chord, but now it's got an extra note in there. So the extra note we're throwing in is the first fret of the first string. That means we've left the note G here on the 3rd fret, and now we're coming back here. But we still have a G, which is that 3rd string open. So we strum those 3 notes together. You can hear it has kind of a harsh sound because of that 7, that's the highest note there. Or that 1st fret, I should call it. And that's the G7 chord. So what you'll want to do with those chords is learn each one individually and just take it and strum through about 8 to 16 times. So that way you get those chords in sets of 4, because a lot of songs group them in sets of 4. So it's a good way to start practicing. So let's take, for example, the E minor. We would do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you notice, I didn't slow down and speed up. Everything was really steady and right with the beat. That way, if someone else is playing along, or if you're trying to sing along with your playing, you'll have a steady beat to follow. So it doesn't feel like you have to suddenly sing faster or sing slower. It'll be right together. All right, now earlier in this lesson, I showed you a more complicated E minor chord when we added those 2 fingers to get all 6 strings. So what I'm going to do here at the end of this video is show you how you can take all the chords we've learned today and add extra notes to them so that you can strum more strings on them. My suggestion is first learn them with 1 or 2 fingers, and then go back and learn these versions once you're comfortable with those other versions. And of course, both versions of these chords can be found in Guitar Chord Master Level 1, which shows you all the basic chords. In fact, a lot of the chords within the first, I'd say, 6 chapters of that book will get you pretty far pretty quickly. All right, so we already learned E minor. Now let's go on to A minor. So A minor, we had just 2 fingers before, you might remember. So what we're going to do is take that middle finger over one string. So we're kind of moving it off the note we already had, and then using the third finger in its place. So now we have 3 fingers down. First string is open. Second string, you have the first fret. Third string, you now have the second fret using the third finger. Fourth string, you have the middle finger or the second finger on the second fret. And then you'll also want to include string number 5, because just like with the D, that's the note A. And there you go, that's your A minor chord. And of course on the PDF, I have pictures of all of these, so you'll be able to refer to them quickly and get your fingers all in the right spot to make these chords. All right, the next one we should go back to is G major. Now G major, originally we had just the third finger at the third fret of the first string, so now we're going to take our middle finger, go all the way to the last string. Now the first time you try it might be a little tricky to go that far. The higher your fingers are on the tips, the easier it'll be to do that. So if you're holding the guitar like this, it's going to be really difficult. If your wrist is dropped, you'll give yourself more space to use those fingers, and it'll be much easier to get those 2 notes. So we have the third fret on the first string, third fret on the last string, and now we're going to add the first finger on the second fret of string 5, and then we strum all 6 strings for this G chord. And for a lot of guitar players, it's their favorite chord. It sounds big, it sounds good, and just like E minor, it sounds like the guitar was built just to play these chords. So let's move on to C major. We had 1 finger before, so we're going to add 2 more. We have 1 finger on the first fret of the second string, skip the third string, go to the 4th string 2nd fret, and then go to the 5th string 3rd fret. And out of all the chords we're trying out, this one is usually the hardest for beginners to get, because you want to make sure each string is cleared so that the open strings aren't being muffled by one of your fingers here. So you strum it all together. You don't strum the last string. The thick string isn't used in this one. And that's a nice big sounding C major chord. All right, and that leaves us, of course, with one last one, that G7 chord. We had the first finger on the first fret of the first string, but now we're going to add the same note we used in G major, using the third finger this time to get the last string 3rd fret, and then we're going to use the middle finger to get the 5th string 2nd fret. So again, it's a bit of a reach. All 3 fingers down, you strum all 6 strings. And that's your full G7 chord. All right, so that covers it. Those are the 6 chords that every player should learn first. For one reason, they sound really good on the guitar. They're not too terribly difficult to play, and millions of guitar-based songs use these exact chords in a variety of ways. So you'll be well on your way to learning some of your favorite songs. Of course, if you want more practice with this, I'd highly recommend Guitar Chord Master Volume 1. Not only does it teach you these chords, but it gives you exercises so that you can work on them, and example songs so that you can actually put them into real music. All right, I hope that helped you get started playing chords, so download that PDF, start practicing. Take your time with it. You know, the chords are a little bit difficult for a lot of beginners at first, so don't get upset or too discouraged if it takes you a little while to learn all those. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. And then come over to our website, themissingmethod.com. There you can learn more about all our books, not just the chord books. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get a free ebook. So keep that in mind. All right, so go ahead, start practicing, and I will see you in the next video.